Flying is like driving a car. In flying, you do a lot of mental math. Yes, now you have computers, but hey, remember, those computers sometimes they break down. So you have to do a lot of mental calculation. I'll say a big kudos to my wife because she's been very supportive from day one. I mean, when we met, I told her, hey, look, I want to become a pilot. Nigerians are not the most patient people when it comes to money matters. So if you can survive that beat, trust me, you can survive anywhere.
Interesting, I had to find you. And I found you because from the first time, I think I've chased you for like 1 year, which means I should be grateful I finally did this. But your story is unique because at the end of the day, the idea for people leaving motherland and coming to a different country to find their path, it's always the same story. But I found several milestones you had met on your own journey. One that I didn't feel it would be fair just for me to hear. And for people who haven't met you, what if I met you 15 years ago? What would you have told me your path would have been?
Well, 15 years ago, I would have told you that my path was headed in the aviation direction because at the time I already had my private pilot's license, and so I was working towards, or rather saving towards my commercial pilot's license and instrument rating. So I was already headed in that path. So yeah, I would have told you what it was at the time.
How did the bank story come about?
Okay, I was posted to Cross River State in the year 2000 for my NYC, National Youth Service Corps.
Is Nigeria's 1 year mandatory serving parliament?
Yes, indeed. And so I was posted to Cross River State, and I was lucky enough to be posted to the state capital, Calabar. And interestingly, I went because at the time I was living with my parents in Delta State, and so I went home, and a friend called me that Citizens Bank was looking for corps members, and so there was a test which was to hold at Aba. 2 days later. So I went, and the requirement for recruitment as corps members was a minimum of second class upper, and I had a second class lower. However, I felt confident that I was going to pass. I mean, anything written, I felt I was going to pass. So I did go. I wrote the test, and I still remember vividly. They said, the lady came and said, if you know you made a 2-1 and above, this way. If you know you made a 2-2 and below, this way. But I stayed with the 2-1.
That was stubborn.
Yes, and I did write the test, the written part, and I passed. And so I went for about 2 weeks later, I think it was, I went for the oral part of the interview. And the first thing they asked me was, what are you doing here? But I think I would say at the time I was super confident because I really did not want it. So it was just a thing like, let's just, So I told them, I said, well, I'm just here that, look, I wrote the exam and I'm here. And they said, you seem an interesting fellow. I said, well, then now a lady asked me a question, said, it's like you had a car in school. I said, me, car? No, my dad is not that kind of person. My parents are strict, So anyway, she asked me, or someone else asked me if I could work under pressure. I said, well, look, everything in Nigeria is under pressure. From your registration, attending classes, even your clearance to leave school was under stress. So it's not a big deal. And so I was employed or, absorbed as a copper, so to say. Yeah.
So for you, working in the bank was one of those steps.
Yes, and I'll say a very important step because it did help me in flying school. At the time, in Florida, I was assigned to the most difficult instructor, and a lot of guys and even girls avoided her. But they assigned me to her. But I knew how to manage her. Why? Because I had worked in the bank in Nigeria, and Nigerians are not the most patient people when it comes to money matters. So if you can survive that beat, trust me, you can survive anywhere else. So it did. So for the going back to the instructor, we had a very, very good relationship till date. We're still in touch.
So on meeting me for the first time, and you talked about banking, you talked about flight school. Who are you?
Okay, I'm on Master Inone. I am a husband, a father. Um, I believe in discipline. I believe in hard work. And I also believe in God. In fact, that should come first because, like it or not, there are certain things we can't do without God sanctioning them. And my story, I think, is one of those that, I'll say is a miracle. Yeah.
Now, do you think because this is 2026, most immigrants get into a new part of the world, and it's hard switching. What was it for you like switching careers? One, what was it like coming into a new country? Where did you switch from banking to becoming a pilot?
Okay. I switched. This was 20. I mean, if you want to count when I left the banking industry and started flying commercially, was January of 2013. However, I won't say we're immigrants here because my wife was born here at the time.
Perfect.
And so it trickled down to the kids.
Yeah.
And so at the time, we thought it wise to move over here. I mean, to give the kids better education and healthcare and the like. So in that wise, I'll say it was aviation, banking to aviation, and then we moved. We just moved here. We thought it wise to just be here to take advantage.
So let's go back to your journey. How were you able to switch from you? There was a plot. There was a plot for you to move from banking to switching careers. How were you able to do it effectively? Because these are two. We're talking about two heavy careers. How was it easy for you? Looking at someone who has that dream and is thinking, okay, I can see him wearing, dressing like a pilot, living the pilot's dream, and maybe I'm stuck here and I earn a living. And I earn a living. Why do I need to? Why was it an important task for you, irrespective of what it's maybe where you were? Yeah.
I think I would start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Growing up, my dad worked for one of the oil companies in Nigeria, and the heliport, his office was by the heliport. So I used to see the helicopters, start up, take off, and everything. So I was really fascinated by the sound, and everything. So, and I say at this time I was about 4 years of age. So I just knew. And where we lived at the time, at the Shell was closer to the industrial area, that's the IA. So the helicopters used to come and then turn on finals to land at the IA. So I always used to run out and look and everything. So I knew, everyone who knew me at the time knew that this guy wants to be a pilot and everything. However, certain things happened later on in life, which I did do some entry exams. I was successful, or so I thought at the time, but I ended up not going for the training, for reasons known to them at the time. But I told myself, I said, look, this dream must not die. It must not die, because I wasn't finding satisfaction in banking.
You were uncomfortable. The hunger was always there. You were restless.
Yes, I was restless, and to tell you the truth, I think at the time in Nigeria, I only had about 4 suits. Yeah, that's how do I say dissatisfied, or I was with banking. So I kept saying, oh, don't worry, next year I'll go to flying school, next year. So I turned 30, and I told myself, I said, hey, look, you're getting old. You need to do this thing. You need to. So what I did do was to send money, I transferred money to a school. And I knew that was it. As I sent the money, I knew that was it. I knew my money wasn't coming back. So it was in the helicopter world of today, it's what I would call, that was my takeoff decision point. So I knew there was no going back. I was committed. So I went to South Africa initially, did my PPL there. It was interesting because in the Nigerian system, we had what was called contribution. I don't know if you know about it.
Yeah.
So I used to
the adjust system.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I used to match mine with my travel time, right? So that towards that time I would just gather my money and then go. So I did that twice, and then I got my private pilot's license. Oh. And yeah, it was interesting because I was done by the end of my 4th week. I was ready to go solo, but aviation is so regulated and regimented that if I went solo at the time, it would have meant me repeating a lot of exercises. Okay. And remember, here I was paying, and it is expensive, especially helicopter training. It's more expensive than learning how to fly on planes. Okay. So I ended up not going solo, and then I went back 6 months later, and then continued from where I stopped, went solo, and then got my private pilot license. And afterwards, this was 2010. Afterwards, I went to the States 2 years later.
United States?
Yes, I went to Florida, to be precise, West Palm Beach. And I obtained my instrument and commercial pilot's license. I was done in 6 weeks for what I thought would take 3 months, 3.5 months. I was done in 6 weeks. So I had to move my ticket forwards or backwards. I don't know. I had to move it. Yeah. And then return to Nigeria. And I was lucky to get a job before I resumed, because I went on sick leave and I was lucky to resume.
Now the sick leave didn't continue for a long time.
Oh no, it didn't. So what I did was I had the doctor friend of mine prepare a sick leave report for me, and then I also had a resignation letter. So it was with my wife. The idea was, if these guys don't grant or approve my sick leave, then just change the resignation. However, it was granted, and I was lucky enough to get a job before it elapsed. But I did tell the company at the time that, hey, look, I have certain obligations to the bank, so please just give me a bit of time. Let me, because it was going to be unfair for me to just leave. So I did do my time with the bank, and then I left.
So let's meet you. What kind of a person are you?
Okay, I'll say I am a calm fellow. I love nature, and I love things being done the right way. That's me.
What's your take on you talk so much about family, and clearly you're grounded in values. How did this part, because clearly when we juggle career and we have family and we have children, the tendency for us to choose one which normally is carry the career more because we feel it's more important, and maybe let the family catch up with us has always been what we've always seen. Very consistent with fathers who are career professionals or mothers who are career professionals. How are you able to juggle this normal life challenge with your own career path, juggling family and career?
Okay. First of all, I'll say a big kudos to my wife because she's been very supportive from day one. I mean, when we met, I told her, hey, look, I want to become a pilot.
That was before you even went to that part.
Yes.
It was clear to you were going to.
Yes, indeed it was. So she's been very supportive, and I tell you what, it wasn't easy. I've got 4 boys at the time.
No, I saw them and I'm like, as in when I saw the 4 boys, I said, as in, you need to see them. But I'm bringing you in here because it's clear to me that you got that part. It's a priority to you. So how were you able to make it? How did it work? Because clearly you can't know this thing and keep it to yourself.
well, yes. So 2 things. The first is finding the right partner, because I tell you what, without the right partner, you will not be settled enough
to join.
Aviation requires 200% attention. I'll tell you what, in the conventional university, the 70 is an A. In aviation, 74 is a fail. Yes.
Wait, come back. You mean if it's got 74?
Yes, it's a fail. 74.99 is a fail. 75 is a pass. In aviation, it's just pass. It's either pass or fail. There is no partial pass. So 75 is the pass mark. So imagine you being a banker with 2 kids, and if you don't have an understanding wife, then there's no way you will make it. Now, going back to your question, before I started flying, I used to think, aviation, that's the thing, that's the main thing, that's the greatest achievement. But of course, time changes one's perspective.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize, or I did realize years ago, that, hey, my family is my greatest achievement and not the career.
Interesting. How long did it take you to get to this point? Because some of us get there when something has happened.
Well, being away, so as an offshore pilot, for most of the time, we're away from family. So being away from family
Gives you more time to reflect.
yes, gives you time to reflect. After your flight, you come back, you reflect. You're flying, you see certain things, you reflect, and then it dawns on you that, hey, my family is my greatest achievement and not this career.
Now, while we got talking, something came up and I kept asking myself, how do when most people leave their fatherland and come to different countries, United States, United Kingdom, any part of the world, the first thing that suffers is family. How are you able to manage migration? How are you able to juggle career? How are you able to I'm saying this because there's someone also that feels there is no formula around there. But my definition for clearly the reason why I said I had to come also was that you hold family there, and we have many people who the earlier years of traveling was quite difficult for them. What was your own? What made it work for you?
Okay, and that's why, if you remember, I said God, there's a God factor in it, which is a major factor.
Yeah.
Now, when I started flying commercially, they wanted me in Lagos. My bosses then wanted me in Lagos, and I told them that I would rather be sent to Port Harcourt for two reasons. One, family. Two, Port Harcourt. So the same place where my dad's office was, the same heliport was where I was flying in Port Harcourt. So that meant a lot to me. It meant I'd achieved that dream by going back to that same heliport where I sat as a kid and always watched the helicopters depart. So my family was about 2.5 hours away. So what I used to do then was to fly Monday to Friday and then go home, Saturday, return Sunday, sometimes Monday if they have me flying in the afternoon. So that prepared me, that prepared me for this journey. Because by the time we moved over, I was still working in Nigeria. They were already used to the system of me being away for weeks at a time. So it did prepare us for this.
So thank you for watching our videos. A story was told about a kid who was playing violin. So for the first time in the crowd, it was the biggest competition for that child. And the more she looked at the crowd for friendly faces, the more she saw parents, then suddenly her dad walks through the door. She looked, it was the dad. At that moment, she knew she was going to win the competition. She did everything because the friendly face was all she needed. And yes, she won. Simply because she had one friendly face. You see, that friendly face is like this subscribe button. It's not hard. If you simply subscribe, we won't forget we have people staring at us who count on us. I will produce and give you good content. Because that's why we're here. It's a dance we want to do for a very long time. So would you subscribe? Thank you. Welcome. In this keynote, I'll give you practical skills on how to retain and engage Gen Zs. From students to leadership teams, I help build a culture where Gen Zs feel seen, supported, and ready to lead teams. In this keynote, we'll answer your biggest challenge on how to engage and retain Gen Z.
in your organization. We would unpack what actually works for them and how to build trust across generations and turn your culture into competitive advantage. Every time we've had this, the feedback is always the same. From thank you for doing this to we wish we'd started this earlier. And it reminds us of one simple thing: we're not just talking, we're changing mindsets. If you're planning a leadership conference or event and want to turn the generational conversation or generational tension into a talk, then let's talk. I would love to bring this to your audience. Super excited to do this. It's modern leadership made actionable.
Going back to your journey, your family person is true. We got talking and I've seen your voice, and we talked about one of your sons is driving at 18. I'm asking this question: is he 18?
He's 19. He's 20 this year.
Interesting. So his son is 19. So don't look at his face. Okay? So how are you able to manage a teenager? And what was that? Why was it an important decision for him to start driving?
Okay.
What was it like for you when you were his age? And I'm bringing that conversation because we're talking about family, and we also have families that also see most of this as rite passage. But what was that? Why was it important for you that you took responsibility? And what was it called for you?
Okay. At his age, at 18, I was in university. I was in my first year. And I already knew how to drive. And for me, my kids should do better than I did during my time. So I started for my first son, I started teaching him last year. I remember last summer, actually. No, the summer before last, actually. And we used to get up early and then we'll go driving and come back. And I used to tell him, I said, look, I need you to start learning responsibility, take more responsibility. I need you to start at some point. You need to start working, while schooling. I need you to start knowing how to manage money, because I want them to get married and start their families early. Once you're done with school and you have a job, why not? Why waste time? Get married. I won't say I got married too early, but I got married I just turned 28 when I got married. And yes, so why not? Why not? A mentor of mine told me at the time as a young man that, hey, look, you need to get married though, because if you're not married, by the time you start flying, you see all sorts of women coming with all sorts of pastors and imams and whatnot.
Because pilot is hot cake. All we need to do is to carry your picture.
No.
It's carry your picture.
As a young man, I used to think pilots were demigods, But now I know that it's not necessarily so. They are just human.
Because if not, then if you go to Shiloh, you see your name. If you go to other prayer, you see your name. But I like that part. Take us in your journey. An average day in the life of a pilot while flying. Take us into those things that we think we see, that we don't know, but that there are things that you finally have seen in your own journey that maybe as an average person I'll come and see it as an ordinary thing, but you that have been in this journey for a while understand that that's what the trade is.
Okay, so one, it requires discipline. So there is no I overslept. It requires discipline. We are required to report for duty 45 minutes before flight.
No Nigerian time.
No Nigerian time. So in that time, you check the notice board for what's called NOTAMs, notices to airmen.
Yeah.
So that tells you that, hey, maybe this airport, certain things are not working, or this Navi is not working. You need to check the weather. We need to plan the flight. Now, checking the weather depending on where you're going, if I'm going from, say, Port Harcourt to Lagos, and I know that it takes me on the average 2 hours, I check the weather. I say, hey, I'm leaving Port Harcourt 7:30. That means all things being equal, 9:30, I should be in Lagos. I need to check to see what the weather what the predicted weather in Lagos is for at 9:30 arrival time. So if 1 hour before that time, 8:30, between 8:30 and 1 hour after 10:30, if the weather is bad, I need to get what's called an alternate. So I might say maybe Cotonou or Ibadan or whatnot, and yeah, so it does take a lot of planning. And with that, if I need an alternate, it means I need to drop either passengers because I need to take more fuel, because it's quite limited. For helicopters, we can't take so many. I fly the AW189 and AW139 helicopters. They are the top of their classes in the helicopter world. The 189 takes 16 passengers, and the 139 takes 12 passengers. So you can see that it's quite limited.
You mean if you take 14, it will show 12?
Oh, so if I take, so because I'm limited to say, for instance, I'll give you an example, 8,600 kilograms on the 189.
Yeah.
With 16 passengers, maybe I can only take 2 hours of fuel or 3 hours of fuel.
Okay.
Right? If I need an alternate, it means that I will take more fuel and I will have to drop maybe 2 passengers or 3. Because that means when I get to Lagos, I can't land. I need to start going to either Cotonou or Ibadan, for instance. So it does affect. So a lot of work and planning does go into the flight operations, so to say. Now, secondly, is that you fly with different people from different parts of the world. So today it might be,
it's fancy to fly on a private jet, and I think it's becoming a new trend for in Nigeria now. And
yes,
everybody wants to. I'm beginning to ask for that private jets are cheaper. Is it that the price became cheaper that people now choose to go private jet compared to what it used to be, or is it a new trend we're beginning to?
I think it's more of a trend, because it is actually more expensive to fly private jets than to go commercial. I mean, commercial, what's the worst you pay, right? Depending on your destination, $2,000, $3,000. But for a private jet, I mean, you're looking upwards of 30,000, 20, depending on your destination. Yeah. So, yes, it's more expensive. But I think it's just a thing that has to do with trends,
So, a pilot, so you can fly a private, you can do private jets, and you might not be doing commercial as a pilot.
Oh yes. Yes, you have corporate pilots, you have guys that fly private jets, you have guys that do commercial, you have guys that do cargo. So there are different aspects in aviation. You have military, you also have the police, you also have ambulance. Yeah, they're just different. It's varied.
How do you, for continuous learning in a career path like this, how do you continuously become, with AI doing everything, the future where most of us are scared of AI taking everything, what does it mean for you with artificial intelligence coming into every aspect of work? Well, how do you continuously update yourself to be on top of the game?
Okay, in aviation, we are tested every 6 months.
Okay.
And it is rigorous. So we go for the simulator. We call it, most of us call it the torture chamber. Where you have to handle the emergencies that normally you are unable to practice in the aircraft, in the actual aircraft, because of how dangerous it is. So we are checked on that. And then we also have written exams too. Some annually, but some actually biannually as well. Yes. So after the simulator, after your OPC or LPC, OPC stands for Operators Proficiency Check, and LPC is License Proficiency Check. So OPC is for the company, and LPC is for the aviation authority. For instance, the UK CAA or the Nigerian CAA or whatever. So this is a simulator, and we as pilots, we use it to practice at home, our personal practice, just to.
So we say continuous learning.
Yes.
When the pilot is not flying, this is what he does.
Yes. For most guys, once you're idle, you just come, fly, and get these things going. So it keeps that muscle memory sharper. Yes. So we just use it to keep ourselves sharp.
So how does it work?
Okay. It simulates a real world helicopter. So the basic systems are the same. You have what's called the cyclic in a helicopter. That's what moves us forwards and backwards. This is called the collective. This gives us lift up and down, and this is the pedals, moves the nose, what's called yaw, left and right. So I'll just give you a basic tour of it.
Okay.
The engines are running now. So I want to taxi, so move forward. I'm going to release the park brake and the nose wheel and turn on the landing lights. And I'm going to taxi. So I start by applying some lift on the collective. And I turn, say, right on the ground by moving the pedals, the right pedal. So that's the runway over there.
Okay.
I'm heading towards the runway. This is Lagos, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Which of the airports?
Local.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Murtala Mohammed.
Mm.
So in real life, I will check that there's no, of course, ETC will tell me when to taxi and all that. I check that there's no traffic. Yes, indeed, there's no traffic coming, and I enter the wrong way. My strobe light is on. Now I'm going to line up. Line up means I face the direction of takeoff.
Okay.
Okay, nose wheel is coming locked. Heading is set. NI is 102. I'm not going to take off. I'm lifting slowly. Everything is done really slow.
How many passengers is this private?
This is the 139, so it takes 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And take it off.
We're now in a private jet, right?
So we are airborne. So that's Lagos, if you remember.
Yeah.
International wing on our right, and then MM2 on the left. So in real world ops, departing Lagos, ATC will usually tell us to turn left.
Okay.
Once we pass the departure end of the runway. The idea is because most of the time you have airplanes behind you waiting to take off. So I'm not sure the last time you flew in Lagos, but if you remember correctly, it's just about the same thing when you're taking off from a plane going to the south generally. So Port Harcourt, Benin, Enugu, Uyo, Calabar, generally you make a left turn.
Because I used to wonder, how do you know when you get into the sky which part is like?
It's actually very easy. It's very easy. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. It's very easy. We have navigation equipment that tell us our direction and everything, and tells us where we have what's called fixes. So it points you in the direction and you just follow it. That's a simplified version of what it is.
Of what it is. Yeah. Okay, so I asked you an earlier question on what take a kid a parent who has had a child that's like, I want to be a pilot.
Yes.
From ground zero, what do they need to do to finally get to? I understand that it's different everywhere, but let's hear from you.
Okay. Yeah. So if it's always advisable to go to the States, I'll tell you why.
United States.
Yes, to the US of A, because you can get your training done in as little as from zero, in as little as 6 months, if you're serious.
Okay.
Right. So that means funding, of course, the passion, funding, and then the weather.
Okay.
So what I did during my time, I was done in 6 weeks. What made mine easy was I studied at home.
Okay. I
studied before I went to the US.
Okay.
So it did make everything super easy for me.
Okay.
So for an aspiring student, what I'll tell them is go to the US, study before you leave your country. Study before going to the US. That way, you don't spend your time studying, you spend your time learning how to fly.
Okay.
And flying is all about muscle memory. The more you do it, the better you become. So that's just what it is, really.
So in the US, it's how many years?
In the US, in as little as 6 months, you can be done.
How about the UK or any other part of the world?
Well, typically, you're looking at 2 years.
United Kingdom?
Yes, for the UK, 2 years. South Africa, 2 years. Yes, broadly speaking, 2 years.
Why is it different, if you don't mind?
Okay, the Americans like it easy.
Okay.
I mean, with no offense to other authorities, the Americans like it easy. They make everything easy, simplified. So, yeah. So why not?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing us into your own small cove of continuous learning.
You're welcome, Charles. You want to have a go?
Okay, so at least I know about here.
This takes you higher or lower. However, there's a trigger here. You need to press it for any time you move it. So you see, we're moving down slowly.
Okay.
If you see this, it's going down. If you press it, push it down more, you see it's going down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're descending.
Okay.
This moves you forward. So press here. Sorry. Yeah. So we press here.
Mm.
You see, left, right.
Okay.
Forward, backward.
Mm.
So the idea is just to make, in aviation, everything is small movements. Nothing is big. You make small and smooth movements. You can do that, or you can use this as well.
Okay.
It serves the same purpose. So if you move this, just put your thumb.
Okay.
Yeah. So move it right. Yeah. And then you can move it left to turn left. Okay, just this one. Just this one. Yeah. Just this one. Okay. Yeah. See. So it's centering. Yeah. Move it more. Okay. Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to hang on the air.
Okay, if you want to hover.
Yeah.
That requires
Special training.
Yeah, that requires
More than 6 months.
Yeah. No. I won't say more than 6 months, but it just requires more coordination.
Okay.
More coordination because you're now looking at the Newton's third law, and a lot of things come into play. So yeah. So I want to give you a challenge, Charles.
Okay.
I need you to land in Lagos.
Oh,
take me back to Lagos, Charles.
Okay, Lagos is left or right? You see why it's good to have good memory?
So, if you remember,
okay,
we took off, went south, and then we went east. Okay, I'll just help you out here. It's easy, nothing to worry about. We are relaxed. Relax. So we can either do it this way, or the other way would be to press this and then just center it back. But this is usually smoother.
So just left.
Yes, left. So over here, we have Lagos as well. That's Lagos there.
Okay.
So what that's telling us is Lagos is behind us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So your aircraft is turning. Okay, for it to move that way, press this. Press this. Yeah. Now move it. You see it? Yeah. Okay, we're descending. We're descending.
Mayday. So what happens in Mayday?
Okay, Mayday is used to signify emergencies.
Okay.
So meaning we need to land immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. You're getting it. Yeah. Good. No, indeed, you're getting it. So Lagos is there. So if we just turn, so the other direction. Yeah. Yep. But we're descending.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll pull this a bit and then we'll pitch back a bit. Yep, good.
Watch how I almost took you away.
Yeah. That's it. Okay, we'll just reduce power a bit. So we need to turn back to the west. What I can do is I can also I'll tell you what. I'll select heading mode. Oh, sorry. Let me just I don't want this thing to crash. Good. Ooh.
You see how I can scratch? You see I can't be a pilot?
No, you can't. You can't be a pilot. You can't be a pilot.
So this is the real Mayday. This is the real Mayday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just basically it.
Nice. Thank you for bringing me into your world.
You're welcome, Charles.
So I'm a kid out there. I've listened to you. I want to be a pilot. As in, I've had that dream of becoming a pilot, but I don't know how to go about it.
Okay.
How do I start?
Easy. You start the way I started. And I'll tell you, when I finished my JS3 exams, I went to the Port Harcourt Shelley heliport and I went to ask a pilot then. And I told him, hey, I want to become a pilot and what subjects do I need to do? And he told me. And so I did that. I followed it through.
Which of the subjects?
Okay, maths, physics, chemistry, geography, biology. So sciences.
So you mean there's no hiding for anyone that thinks they don't like maths?
Oh no, there's no hiding because in flying you do a lot of mental maths. Yes, now you have computers, but hey, remember those computers sometimes they break down.
Yeah.
So you have to do a lot of mental calculation. Really, it's nothing too difficult. It's just basic arithmetic, really, in my opinion. So nothing too difficult, but you need a sound mind. You need to be able to analyze things and to think ahead. Okay, this I can see the cloud is moving this way. By the time I get there, at this speed, where do I think it will be? So just basic stuff like that.
I mean, I used to imagine, the first time we went into cloud, I was like, you mean you people will enter here? How was that world for you? And I'm asking this question because there are several things we don't see that you people see. How is that world for you where all your life is flying? And I know these days we have lesser conversations about accidents, but did it ever occur to you one day that this is also a part that is scary, like every career path?
Well, yes. I mean, I've had incidents like that where, I went home and I was thinking, oh dear, However, we are trained.
Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, every 6 months we go for simulator training and checks, and those things actually reinforce the training.
Yeah.
They prepare you, for such emergencies. Yeah. So it's you get used to it. It's like driving your car on the road, right? You're on a speed breaker. You don't think about it. You just go. You just slow down and go. So it is in the air. As much as possible, we try to avoid flying into weather. But like in Nigeria, especially in the south, there's plenty of weather. So if you have to avoid every cloud or every thunderstorm you see, then you're not going to get the job done. So what we usually do is just to slow down. We'll make sure we have enough fuel. We slow down, and then we try to circumnavigate, around.
I think there's a special skill for Nigerian pilots, because somehow I think that's what you're trying. There was a time when we had several the aviation industry in Nigeria was a mess, and we always had plane crashes, and it doesn't take after a couple of and this is not me being. After a while, the airline changes the name and comes up.
Yeah, it comes up. Yeah.
But the question I kept asking those days were, who were the pilots? Why was it easy for them to also follow this airline they are not too sure about, or they also know that maybe some because the conversation out there is that the reason why we had more of it that time was that some of them didn't follow the normal safety. That it was not something that was evil in quote. That most of them there were safety issues that were missed, really. So how do you conflict? What's the conflict between understanding that an airline is not following and you understanding the ethics of the profession, knowing that some have to do it because they have to do it for money, and while some have to refuse to do it because it doesn't work, it's not ethical of them. How do you surpass those ethical milestones when you meet them?
Okay, I fall into the second category because as a pilot in command, I have the final say on if I'm going to accept an aircraft that is unserviceable. That means it is unsafe to fly, or I don't. So I love my family. I don't want my license to be withheld by the authority, because if anything happens, any emergency, I will be held. I'll be the first guy to be held down. Why did you accept this aircraft knowing that it was unsafe or unfit to fly? So it's up to each individual. However, as trained professionals, we don't accept unsafe aircraft. We never accept unsafe aircraft. So as pilots, we are trained not to accept unserviceable aircraft. So it's just what it is. We have laws and regulations backing us up on that. So really, there's usually nothing to be afraid of when it comes to that.
So back to we started a conversation about a kid that has listened to you or lost the color of your clothes. I want to fly, as his dad and mom has told him, what do you want? I want to be a pilot. And jokes apart, I've come to see, the funny part, I've seen kids in the UK here where I ask them, what do you want to be? And they say bus driver. And at first I felt like slapping them, but I understood that was reality. It's what's common. What do you want to be? Bus driver. What do you want to be? And it was funny. I said, you see, back in Africa, back in Nigeria, are some professions that you would never see, even if it's here. As in, you have to tell them the three doctor, pilot, engineer, and everybody's happy until your eyes is clear. Yeah. But it got clearer that the only reason why a kid will say that is because that's what they're exposed to. That's what they know. So for a kid that maybe likes the color of your clothes or likes airlines, what do you think? And I've said, one, if you don't like maths, forget it. Don't get carried away that AI will solve your problem. You have to go back to maths. So what is that step for you, for them to finally get there?
Okay. Yeah, like I said earlier, the sciences and then the health. Aviation is so highly regulated that you can pass your sciences, have the money, have the passion, or if you don't have the health, then that becomes a barrier. By health, I mean you must have your eyesight should be able to be corrected to 20/20 vision. It doesn't mean you must have 20/20 vision, but it should be able to be corrected. I use glasses now to read the small characters.
Okay.
Right. I don't wear glasses, but if I have to fly, and use charts and stuff, then I wear my glasses. That's one. They check your hearing, your heart, back to your eyes, color vision and everything. Because without your hearing, for instance, your balance becomes affected.
Yeah.
And if your balance is affected, then you can't really operate an aircraft, especially in bad weather, in weather where you can't see the horizon. That becomes a problem. So I'm just touching on the basics, So things like diabetes are disqualifying as well.
Yeah.
So people need to just be healthy, watch what you eat, exercise as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that's it. But the most important thing is the passion, because there are days where you might not be so motivated, right? So it's that residual passion that will fuel you, that will keep you going. So the passion is very key.
It's good you brought up the passion conversation. We live in an era where, so these are 3 conversations, and it could also be right. And an era where we tell you, follow your passion, and an era where we tell you, do what works. Now, the conflict is always when at the moment passion cannot be converted to solve everyday problem. But I like this part you're coming in. We're saying what passion does for you is that at those days where you get tired, which you would see in the best profession, that passion is the only thing that drives you.
Yes.
So when we say follow your passion, it's not that we say follow it recklessly. It's that so that when it comes to days like this, when you're tired, there's something that makes you, because someone said if Monday morning still reaches and you don't want to go to job, change that job. Why? Because Monday morning you're meant to be excited.
You're meant to be excited.
If you got to that state of Monday, you're not excited to go to work, and you're saying you're tired, there's something wrong.
Yeah. Flying is like driving a car, right? If you remember back to when you just started, I'm sure you're excited before this, but after a while, I beg, it's just what it is. It's just what it is. And sometimes you fly with people that are not so, I want to be careful with my words here. People that are not so accommodating.
Yeah.
Right? There are some people You know, they are grouchy. Some people are, and you're just like, oh no.
Mm.
So you need that passion. The passion is what keeps you going.
Yeah.
So it's very important that the passion is there, takes the larger share of the pie.
For you, at the end of your journey, what's your biggest? You've told me that family comes first for you, but what would you want your sons to say about their dad, and what is because um subconsciously, they're also watching. So what would you want? What's very important to you that drives you, that irrespective of where you are, you want your son to look back and say, this is what my dad helped me to do.
I would say integrity.
Okay.
Yeah, because for me that's very key. I've integrity and compassion, being human and humane. Help people where possible and do the right thing. That's for me. That's what I want to be remembered for. That's what I want my legacy to be. Um, some of my mentors back in the day told me to pass it forward.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I've helped some people who are pilots today. Some are flying commercially. Some are under training.
Yeah.
And so yes, I get excited when I see kids as well have that passion that I had as a kid. I always see myself in them, so it gets me excited.
Are you planning on anything for the kids? Are you planning on things for what do you do for people that want to follow this path? Because I'm very sure that they will follow you in your church. They'll follow you everywhere you go to. Yeah.
Yes. So I also have a group of young men that I teach basic aerodynamics and stuff about aircraft, helicopters specifically, because that's what I majored in. And it's not only about the aerodynamics and whatnot. I teach them stuff about life, about doing the right thing. It will take you places. Let them say, Charles, I know Charles. Charles is a good guy, dependable. That is, for me, that's more important than being known as a pilot. No.
So who are you without all the labels?
Without all the labels, I would say
pilots, banker, all those labels. Good.
Well, without those labels, I would say I am just a guy who tries to do the right thing. That's what it will interest you to know, that I still have the phone number, my MTN phone number from 2002, still the same phone number.
People say that's how you know real people.
Yeah, so
they don't take their phone numbers.
So for me, for me, it's important that we are seen, not just by others, but even ourselves, to do the right thing. That's very key. Yeah.
No, it's important. I've seen the role of most times we don't know, people watch us and people shadow us. The fact that I remember I watched one of the pilot stories that still rings in my head is that there's a Washington.
Okay. Yeah. Plane.
Yeah. And in the interesting part of someone asked me to watch it 3 times. Yeah. And the first time I had a perception. It's a watch it again, and the 3rd time I understood one thing, irrespective of the fact that Denzel was drunk or he drinks, there was still, it wasn't, he understood the job.
Yeah.
So what he was teaching me there was, he said, see, what's your first verdict about the pilot? He was drunk and everything about him, so watch it the second time. He said, at the end of the day, let it be said that you know your job.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, Denzel knew his job.
Knew his job.
Irrespective of the fact that everything happened around him. And I think that's what career is. That's what most of us forget when we do this job. That people are also watching us.
Yes.
And people also want to see he knows what he's doing.
Yes.
He knows it. And for you, I'm saying thank you for shining your own light and sharing your time with us. It feels good also meeting someone that understands what these things are. And there's always a gift I give to people. But now I've come to your house. I don't know if I have the gift, but let me check whether I have the gift. 1 minute. Yes, I have the gift. So it's a coconut.
Thank you, Charles.
So the idea is we all have coconuts to break, and coconut is symbolic. People will laugh there, but coconut to UK. So the idea is that there's a coconut we must always break. It's hard, but when we break it, it's very personal. So for you, you're on your own journey. As you keep breaking it and doing the things you have to do, I'll say keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you.
So this is where we say thank you. And don't fail to subscribe and watch this edition. This edition was quite interesting because I had to come to his house to hear this part. A pilot doesn't stay very long. A pilot comes once in a while. So coming to him was important because we understood that there was someone out there that needed to hear the story. So share to us your most inspiring moments in this.